Hi, thank you for attending our webinar today. My name is Scott. I'm the Marketing Manager for Critical Edge Group. This is the first part of our 6-part GP add-on ISV webinar series. Today we'll be featuring eOne Solutions, who have been a partner of ours for some time now. eOne offers quite a few great products for GP, many of which our customers have had a lot of success with over the years. On the call with me today is Sandra Glick, our owner, and Martin Olson of eOne Solutions. We ask if you have any questions that you type them in the chat pane, and we'd be happy to try to address them all at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Martin, and he's going to show you some of eOne's products today.
Thank you, Scott. I will share at this end, and everybody should be able to see what's going on. Just confirm for me, Scott, that you're able to see, well, a spreadsheet there, but Dynamics GP.
Yes, we have GP up now.
You can see that okay?
Yep.
Perfect. So thanks for Scott and Sandra having me along today, and I'm glad you could all join. What I'm going to show you is a series of tools that every one of you can utilize. There's nothing vertical in what I'll show you. It's very horizontal, meaning that anybody that uses Dynamics GP can and does have a need for all of the tools I will show you today. So it will apply to you. There's no opportunity to switch off in this process. So bear with me, and I'm sure you can ask questions through the chat, and we'll come to those. So I'm very happy to take questions as we go through that process. So the tools I'm going to, let me just pull this up. I'll run through the PowerPoint, but it'll take all of 2 seconds. So eOne, we've been around for quite some time. You'll probably know us from Smart List Builder and Extender. A lot of you will use that through Microsoft. So Microsoft liked our products so much they've been selling them, and there's roughly 15 to 20,000 now. I haven't updated my slide. Customers, mid-market customers using products that eOne has built. So many of you are probably those. So rest assured, the things I'm showing you today are coming from an organization that you probably already deal with. Certainly Critical Edge does, and Microsoft like what we do. I'm going to talk firstly about Smart View. Now this is the simplest tool that, quite frankly, if you use GP, you really need. It takes Smart List, which everybody loves, I used, and makes it a whole lot better. It fixes all those little things about Smart List that drive you crazy. So we'll run through those first. The second thing I'll talk about is Extender. And there's been some changes to Extender recently, so that's an important topic to show you how you can make your GP environment even better fit for your business. So there's things that you now do in Excel or Access or outside the system, or you can't find a spot to key in the data. We'll help you resolve that problem. And then we're going to take a look at Smart Connect. And Smart Connect is a tool that is every accountant's dream, because it lets you key data into other environments. It'll let you key data into Excel. It'll help you integrate data from your website, and will let you pull data from all your other external systems and bring that into Dynamics GP. So they're the three things primarily that we're going to talk about today. So let me switch back to product. That's enough talk. And I'll pull up Dynamics GP. Now, as I promised, I'm going to start with Smart View. So under my Dynamics menu here, I'm going to go straight to Smart View. Now you'll notice straight away that Smart View looks and feels an awful lot like Smart List. On the left-hand side are all the lists that I would normally see inside Smart List. When I select a list, I'm going to see columns of data with all the fields that would normally be in a Smart List. But there are a number of differences with this screen. So if I was to take something a bit more complex and take sale line items, the first thing you'll notice is at the bottom of the screen, it's gone off and brought back 1,000 records in just on half a second, and it shows me how long it took. If I was to click on here and say, look, I really want all of the records you've got, and make that a big number, and we hit save, it's come back with, well, there you go, all of 1,003 in my sample database. But it's taking half a second to do that. If you've done that in SmartList, you know you can sit there, and it drove my coffee addiction for a long time, so I would have to go and get a coffee while I'm waiting for my SmartList to run, come back, and then I could work with it. If we take a complex one like financial transactions, I've got more data in that environment. Let's just change that up again. And you'll see how quickly that will run. And it brings me back so 22,000 records in 8 seconds, which is not a bad return rate for anybody that's sat there and waited for a SmartList to run. The other things we can do in here, so firstly it's quick, and that's going to solve a lot of problems. Secondly, it gives you a much simpler one-screen interface. So if here I'm on the sales line items and I want to come across to the right and choose some additional columns, I can simply tick them on the left-hand side, and it will go and refresh and add those to the list. Now, one of the things that drives a lot of people crazy is that now I've added those extra columns, I can't see them all on the screen, and I've got to scroll left, scroll right. Now, one of the things I can do here is go to full screen, so that will take up the entire screen of my screen. Then I can take on the left-hand side here, and I can move this bar wherever I want. And I've had a lot of people buy SmartView just because they can get rid of that white space that they have with SmartList. So we can move that to the left, or I can hide that bar altogether by clicking up the top, and we get rid of that list and we dedicate the entire screen to the data you want. On the right-hand side, if I don't want to choose any more fields because I'm done selecting fields, I can, oops, this one here, I can hide that as well. So we've now got nothing on the screen but the things we want. I'll put this one back on. The other thing I can do here, and I love it, is hitting Control and F. If I hit Control and F, not function, it will give me a search, and that search is now not just across a column, but across everything in this screen. So if I was looking for something that had 706 in it, it's going to run off and it's going to find every record that had a 706 somewhere in it, and it's going to highlight it and make it yellow. If I was looking for the item that had white, it's going to go and find white inside of there. If we wanted invoice 1001, I can type that in and it's going to go and find 1001 and highlight it for me. Now, all the functionality you have with SmartList is there as well. So if I wanted to double click on one of these and go to the GP screen that's behind that and use the go to, it will take me off in GP and do that. I can use my go-tos up at the top as well to go to any of these options, to any of those screens. So it becomes your navigation for GP as well. Now if we take this off, the other way of filtering my data, if I just remove that find, is a bit like Excel. For those of you that have used Excel, I can just click at the top here, this little icon, and say show me only invoices or only orders. And so again, I haven't left this screen, I'm still on the same screen, and I can pull that up and filter now just for invoices. The other thing I can do then is see that at the bottom, it's building this filter criteria. So it's got with the SOP type equals invoice. If I wanted to, I can edit that filter and add as many additional filters as I want. So for those of you that have been frustrated by only being able to add 4, I could add 10, I could add 20 in here, and they can be of any of the fields, and it can be really of any type. So I've got more options here of is any of, is none of, is greater than, less than, all the standard ones. And you've got a whole bunch of options, as well as having an and or function. So if I want to go, it's and this, or that one, and that one, you can build up the most complex filters to ensure you're returning the exact data that you'd like to return into the screen. The next thing I can do is take the item number here, or any field, drag it up to the top, and it's going to suddenly turn into a pivot table-like environment where it's now grouping by the item number. So I've got all the invoices here for that product, 100 XLG, and it's automatically totaled that. So I'm getting my subtotals here for every numeric field. Now if I don't want one, I can right click and say don't total the quantity, or don't total the extended cost, and turn those off. Otherwise I'm going to see all the data here. If I wanted to group further, so we've got item there, we wanted to group also by customer. I could put customer above product or below. Let's throw it up above. And now we've got 2 levels of grouping, one by customer and one by product. So I can see all the products that Aaron Fitz has purchased, and I'm getting subtotals at both levels. So again, it's a very easy way to see the data you want. And you'll notice the totals at the bottom of the screen are always there, so you don't have to export to Excel to get a total and do a sum. It's given to you right there on that front screen. Probably the last thing I'll show you in SmartView is that if I'm looking at this screen here, I've got all of my normal export functions to CSV, Excel, and I can export to PDF, and it will keep the look and feel. But oftentimes you don't want to export everything. I just want to export these records here. Then I can hit Control and say, give me that one, and that one down there. That's what I want to send to someone. Then I can either right-click and copy or Control Copy. I can copy that, jump out to an Excel spreadsheet. Let's grab a new sheet, and I can just paste that straight into Excel. And it will format itself, and I double-click there. The way I want it to. So again, I can drop that into an email, I can drop that into Excel, so it's going to give me the quickest way of exporting that data. And if you were needing to push out 300,000 records to Excel, that copy and paste works, and it still only takes a few seconds. So getting your data out to Excel becomes very easy as well. The last thing I will show you on SmartView is if I'm here and I've just built this up and I've got a nice list and I've filtered it and grouped it and I'm looking for the records I want, somebody walks into the room and says, now can you tell me about that reversal journal you did last week? Now I don't have to jump out of this and lose all the things I've done and start clicking on something else. Back to GP, I can say I'd like to open another instance of SmartView, and it will do that. And if I wanted to do another one, I could open another instance of SmartView and have 3 different queries all running at the same time, have that on screen all day to give me the data that I use all the time. So for those of you that have ever wanted to open a second instance of SmartList, this is the way to do it. I've said this 3 times now, the very final component of all of this is that I've got an option to come back to my desktop. Let's close a few things down. And on my desktop, I've got an icon for SmartView. So what I showed you so far was running SmartView inside Dynamics GP. And this is a second tool which is the exact same functionality, but it runs independent of GP. So you can give the same, if we open it up, the same functionality that you give everybody inside GP. You can give it to all your users that don't have logins to GP, but you can give them the same data, the same environment, the same field. If I can remember my password, that's going to look like this. So if I go back to sales where we were and pick sales lines, funnily enough, I get the same columns. I get the same fields on the right. I can do all the things. The only thing I can't do from here is, because this is a user that does not have GP, I can't use the go-tos and the drill back because they're not going to have anything to drill back to. But otherwise, all of the functionality here is the same and available. So if you want to give external users of SmartView access to all of the GP data, obviously security-based, so you can control what they do and don't see, it makes an amazing way of getting that data out to people that need it, rather than them coming to finance to ask all those tricky questions. So that is SmartView. If you liked it, come back and talk to Scott and Sandra, and they'll be able to help you out with SmartView and where it would fit into your business to solve some of those problems. Second thing we're going to touch on was Extender. And many of you may have seen Extender. Extender is a tool that lets you add new fields. So if there's ever a time you wanted to capture some data inside Extender, or inside GP and there's nowhere to place it, Extender is the go-to tool to do it. So an example is very simply, if I was to pull up my customer. Now I've run out of fields on here. I've got a few comment fields, but they're just free text. I can't really report on them because people don't type things correctly. But I can jump up to my additional menu and grab my customer extras. Now this one's very simple. I've simply got 2 fields, the account type and the lead source. Now I'm going to track against that customer number. I can then use that in my SmartList reporting, and my SmartView reporting, add it on the report, write a reports, do what I need to do with that data. And the beauty here is that adding these extra screens is something that every one of you can do. It only takes a few minutes and you don't have to be a programmer. So that very simple screen there, if we went to Extender, which I again just get from my menu, Tools, Extender, is where I can build up. You can see here I've built not just a few extra fields, but entire mini applications, one for call tracking, one for a subscription environment, and you can have as many of those as you'd like. But if we were to take this one here and add a new window, we'll do it from scratch. So I want a new window. I'm going to call this, for the sake of today, Sandra's Details, and this will be extras, and then I get to say where in GP would I like this extra window to be. And you can do it not just for GP, you can do it across all the third-party tools, fixed assets, any other dexterity application you've got running in GP. You're able to add it to there. We'll start with GP here, and we might do it on sales, and we'll do it on sales transactions. And then I just simply label my fields. So field 1 on this extra window, we would like to be, does it need packaging? Now there's nowhere in GP that I get to say that something we sell needs packaging, so I can fill that gap. Now if you don't need packaging or your business doesn't involve this sort of thing, ignore the fields I'm setting. I'll make this a checkbox, but apply it to your business. So whether it's against project accounting, whether it's against field service or fixed assets or the general ledger, if it's somewhere that you would benefit from capturing extra data, it fits for you. We could make the second field the type of packaging it needs if it does need packaging, and we can make that a list type. And then I can just set the values in that list, being it needs a box, oops, it needs a box, a bag, a bow, whatever we want, the 3 Bs. And that's the development effort to build those 2 extra fields. And I can continue to add as many of those as I'd like. If we were to save that, you've just seen me turn into a Dynamics GP developer, which I am not. Against the sales transaction here, I can now grab my additional. There's Sandra's Extras, which appears in the list where we can track whether it needs packaging, and if it does, the type. Now that can be 10, 15, that can be as many fields as you'd like it to be. If you look at, when I go to transactions here, I've got things like subscriptions. I've got another window here that's going to replicate sales order processing entry, but I've built those in Extender. So if we look at my subscriptions, here's a whole screen that's been built using Extender. So instead of just 2 fields, we labeled a lot more fields to give me the customer, the billing address, what plan they're on. I haven't got any plan set up. But that plan is another Extender screen. So if I drill back, I've now got a screen called a plan ID. And if we were to put in a plan, length, frequency, billing frequency, payment, that's going to build me up a whole subscription model, and all those screens start to hang together. So you can see there it's not just 2 extra fields. That's perfect for a lot of you. Some of you might want to build a whole screen. So you've got something sitting in Excel now and you go, why do I store every customer name and number and some extra data in Excel? It really should be in here, because then I can use smart lists. I can put it in Report Writer. The security of having it backed up in my SQL database. All those things that come with GP that you like about it is what you're missing when you do it external to the system. So Extender is the way to build your own things and get them into here. Now you'll notice this screen here for subscription looks and feels like GP. No one in your organization would know it was different. It was a third-party add-on. And importantly, when you come to upgrade, so for those of you that are lining up a GP 2013 upgrade, and all future upgrades, Extender will upgrade very smoothly. You're not having to go back to your third-party developer and ask them to write code and upgrade your dictionaries and charge you lots of money. It reduces the cost of your upgrade process. So it's very important and a really good tool. So for those of you that have got it, talk to Scott, Sandra about training, or come and talk to eOne and we can get you to become a guru in the product. Or if you haven't got it yet, certainly it's something that can add to your GP experience and just help your business run that little bit better. Now I'm going to switch to number 3. The third thing we're going to look at today was a tool called Smart Connect. Now Smart Connect is a big tool that does lots of things. I will touch on a few of these today, but if you put your creative imaginary hats on, you will be able to see the power of where Smart Connect can fit for you. The first thing I'm going to look at, and let me just give you an overview. Smart Connect is a tool that knows how to create transactions in GP externally. Now, one thing it can do is be used for importing data. So everything that, say, Integration Manager does, Smart Connect will do, but about 50 times faster. So it's going to speed up that process and be much more flexible. But it can also take data from absolutely anywhere and create data in GP. It can take data from GP and push it back into GP. It can integrate between Microsoft CRM and GP or Salesforce and GP. And it's also an export tool. So if you need to get data out of GP at any point in time on a regular basis or pass it to another system, Smart Connect will generate an XML file every hour and put it into a location so that other applications can use it. So there's a lot of functionality there. So firstly, I'll go to, we'll take this one first. So what I've got here is a template inside Excel where I can do general ledger journal entry. When I hit that submit button, that data is going to run off to GP. So let me remove a couple of these lines from a previous one. And I can come in here and say we've got a journal that's going to put $450 from the German bank account into my United Kingdom bank account. I could add a line to that, choose another account, and I could choose it by account, or if I came here, I could choose it by description, which is kind of nice. And we'll write this off to a rounding difference. So we'll make this $449. And I'll make this one here the $1 to make this balance. Now, if I didn't put the $1 in and I hit submit, it's going to say, hey, first thing it's going to say, I've already pushed this journal through because I did this in a demo earlier today. Do you want to run it again? If I was to say yes, it's going to pop up and tell me it doesn't balance in theory, and it's going to disappear off my screen. Let me jump back to another screen while that recovers itself. The theory there is that I can do that entry straight into GP or straight into Excel, and that submit button is going to push it off. There you go. I managed to break it by my test environment. Let's make that 450. Oh, I can't type. And I'll get rid of this line here. So we'll make the description on here just so we can see it's true. Sandra's month and bonus adjustment, and we'll push that one through. So what that's doing is converting that data into an XML in the background, passing it through the web service and pushing that into GP. Now you can do that for any transaction that you can dream up in GP. If you want to do your data entry into Excel, you can, sitting at home on a Sunday afternoon watching football, or giving it to a project manager that's out in the field. As long as you set the web service security correctly, they could push data in. And obviously you need to be very secure about that because you don't want people hitting your GP otherwise. So back in Dynamics GP, under Transactions Financial, if we go to the very last one here, we've got a journal for $450 for Sandra's month-end bonus adjustment, which is kind of handy. And that's coming to Dynamics GP. So again, doing that from anywhere is what you can do. I'll put up one more example. And this is perhaps my favorite one. So this here is an Excel spreadsheet that comes from GP using SmartList Builder or the Excel Report Builder component of SmartList Builder. I'm seeing item, product, quantity, on order type information. Now again, if you don't deal with items and quantities, ignore the data but understand the concept. This could be journals, it could be account information, it could be customer addresses, it can be projects, whatever you want it to be. But here it's saying we've got all these products and the quantity we should be ordering is here. Now I know this is live from GP because if I was to come up here and delete some data, as such I know I've wrecked my spreadsheet, but if we do data refresh, wherever my refresh has gone, refresh all, it brought all that data back. So it's going off to GP to get that real time. So part of SmartList Builder, for those that haven't used it, is Excel Report Builder, which gives me this column data but out in Excel. It's always live from GP. So it's telling me we should be placing these orders. Now I want to look at these fax machines down here. It's telling me I need 1,238 fax machines. Now I don't want to buy that many fax machines. So I'm going to go and change that to 2. And this one I'm going to change to 3, and this one to 4. So really I'm updating GP data in my spreadsheet. But when I hit run, it's going to go and create a purchase order for all of the items in this list based upon what we've got there. So if I was to find my button, where's the eOne button gone? Somebody's hidden my button. And click my send to GP button, it's going to take that data again and push that back to GP. So take that concept not just from Excel, but think about it from your website, from payment gateway, from selling online to integrating with your CRM. Smart Connect's a tool that will move data in and out of those. So for those that are technical, I don't want to get too technical today, but we'll pull up Smart Connect briefly. And I want to take a look at the building. So this is where I do the design and the build of everything I do in Smart Connect. The first thing I do, I'm going to start a brand new map. Let's add a map. We'll stick with Sandra today as the example. First thing it asks me, and this is the design you only do once, but I just want to show you the options, is what type of data are you using? Are you using data that comes in on a regular basis, which would be my data load? Am I integrating two systems where I only want to track changes, so things that have changed since the last time my integration ran? Or is it a real-time event? And that's where I'd keep two systems completely in sync. So as I changed one, it would run and change the other one. So that could be when I change one GP database, it would automatically update another GP database. And we get a lot of customers that use that for like keeping account numbers in sync. So I had an account number in my master database, it would push those GL account numbers across all the other ones. Or it can be between Microsoft CRM and Dynamics GP. So when I make a change in CRM, it automatically runs back to GP. If I choose data load, just to show you the examples, below that I can pull data from pretty much anywhere. You'll see here I've got a network folder. I can grab it out of Extender, which I showed you earlier. I can pull data from CRM. I can pull it from GP. I could grab data out of any of the Excel versions, or I can get it from an ODBC connection. So for those technical guys, it means pretty much I can connect to any data anywhere. We've got a predefined text source. I can actually grab SmartList data as my data source. So if I want to pull data out of SmartList and push that to somewhere, I can. I can take an XML file and so forth. So really I can get data from anywhere through this process. Now to fill this map in, I'm going to grab a spreadsheet and got one which is nice. The second component, as we said, now we've got where the data comes from. The second side is where do you want the data to go. And I can export it, which is what I spoke about earlier, exporting it to CSV, Excel, tab delimited. I could also export to an XML file if that was what I wanted to do. I can push that data into CRM and GP. If I'm doing that, it's using all the business rules of those tools. So for CRM and GP, it knows all the rules you need to create a journal successfully or a sales order successfully, so it doesn't let bad data into the system. Getting technical again, I can write straight to a SQL table. I could write to a stored procedure if I wanted to. I could push my source data into a web service, or I could push it to an XML file. So you've got pretty much mixing and matching anything you like, from a source, which we started with, to a destination, which gives you ultimate flexibility in integration to say I can do anything to anything. And if you need to move data, Smart Connect becomes the tool for you. And so that's really what I wanted to cover today. I could talk about Smart Connect all day and show you, many examples, but I think we've shown you the concept of what it can do. One of the most exciting things for me with Smart Connect is where I start with a destination or a data source here of Dynamics GP, and then I have a destination of Dynamics GP. Now what that means is I can pull data from GP, do something with it, and create something else in GP. I won't run through it, but one of my examples there is if I create a new employee in GP. Inevitably, if they're of the right manager rank, we will pay them an expense claim at some point. So I need that same person not just as an employee but also in accounts payable, because I'll have to draw them a check to reimburse them. So I've got an automated process that says add the employee into GP payroll, and when I hit save, automatically take that data and create a vendor. So anything that you do manually now that the data already exists, Smart Connect can come to the rescue and be the tool to help you integrate that. And then for those with bigger projects, integrating multiple systems together, your website, and I think everybody now needs your website in one form or another, integrated back to either your CRM system or your ERP in GP system. Smart Connect becomes a tool. Sandra and Scott will know from dealing with eOne, whenever they place an order for software with us, they do it online on our website, and Smart Connect is the tool that sits behind that, and it updates our CRM system, generates reg keys and license keys, populates the new records in there, puts your customer name into my CRM system, also creates invoices in GP, and run through that process. So it's something we use internally, but there's now something like 1,800 small businesses like yours using Smart Connect for their integration. So it's again been around for quite some time. So that, in essence, is really what I wanted to cover today. There's a number of other tools from eOne that you can leverage. One that works, or two that work very well with Smart Connect. One is called Smart Post. And what that does is help you automate the posting process in GP. So if you don't like waiting around late on Fridays or dialing in Sundays to hit post, Smart Post is something that will sit there and watch what's happening, and based upon your schedule, we'll go in and post batches that meet your criteria. A lot of people use it in conjunction with Smart Connect. So they will import 2,000 invoices with Smart Connect overnight, and then at 2 a.m. in the morning have the posting routine. So not only do those invoices get imported, they also get posted. So that's another one to touch on. So there's some other options, but Scott and Sandra are the experts in that. They know our products pretty well, and they certainly know where to find us and discuss it. So that's kind of what I wanted to touch on. I'm not sure if there's any questions there, Scott and Sandra, that we need to address. Anybody's asked. If you do, certainly send those through. And if you don't want to ask them now and you want to think about them, come back, and Scott knows where to find me. So thank you all very much for your time. I hope that's been useful, and I hope to talk to you soon.
If you have any questions, just type them into the type them into the chat panel, and we'll be happy to answer them. I'll tell you, we sell and support all three. In fact, eOne is one of our primary partners or vendors, so that any GP solution now that requires data integrations, data migrations, we use eOne for, and very successfully. You can schedule things. We have scheduled data integrations running real-time live, running scheduled overnight, any frequency we want, with incredible performance and great results, and have actually gone back into our existing customer base and upgraded them from the integration manager to Smart Connect on many occasions. Extender, we've had one customer with three actual extender windows just in the PO because of their very, very rigorous PO requirements. So we've been, and again, all of that data shows up in Smart Lists and is queried and reported on, and it just truly completely extends the functionality of the system. SmartFill, I'm sorry to say we're not using in-house, but now after the demo, I will tell you we're going to start using that because I'm impressed. It's probably the one product we haven't paid much attention to, but you've got my interest now.
That's good. So
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the one thing I use it for, and you will be able to use it for internally, is my quarterly commission calculations, which I used to fight with SmartList every month to work out which consultants had billed enough and what products we'd sold for our sales team. But with SmartView, it's taken that from what was a half-day exercise to probably a 20-minute exercise, which is very nice.
Yeah, and anybody who knows me knows that every time they ask me a question about how to get information out, it's always the same answer, which is SmartList. So this truly extends between SmartList Builder and now SmartFill. There's no limit to what you can do with the SmartList queries. Pricing, the best way to handle that would just be to get in touch with us, and we'll give you the pricing on the software. They're all, licensed separately. Any other questions at all? Any comments? If not, we'll let Martin go, and we'll thank you very much for attending.
Great. Thanks to everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you, Martin.
Thanks, Sandra.
Okay.